It's the Good Slate Late Show with your host, Graham Jones.
Welcome back to the Good Slate Late Show via Zoom. My name is Graham Jones. Today we have our special guest, Alea Hansinger. Welcome in. And Corbin Marshall. Welcome in, good sir. Thank you for joining us. I want to talk a little bit about episode 3, which is y'all's big episode of The Bondsman. As we know, there was a lot of complex moments, a lot of time and thinking that went into these stunts. As me and Corbin know previously, I think the last time I was in the water was with Corbin at LA Fitness and Tom. We were basically, I was just getting drowned by Tom. That was it. That was the whole gag. Tom was just drowning me, which is pretty realistic because I can't swim. So yeah, fun fact. I can swim in 4 foot of water. I can do that because I can stand up. But tell us a little bit. We'll start with Alea. Tell us a little bit about how you got into the industry.
Didn't really go to film school or anything like that. I did STEM in school and worked at a dive shop in college. Shout out Rum Runner Dive Shop. You guys were a second family and a second home when I was in school. I got a lot of like dense experience in the scuba industry. And then my heart kind of just changed directions and I decided I was going to go into film. And so when I went to Atlanta to start working in that market, I got involved with water safety, which I didn't even know was a thing that I could do. I didn't know I could like put scuba and film stuff together, and it kind of just worked out really well that way. And so that's kind of it. I did a little bit of water safety, and then obviously I had started acting right away. So those were those 2 things. And then this project was the first time that I ever actually got to push those 2 together in any way, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing. That doesn't always happen, which actually leads us into Corbin. We know you have some water safety experience and background as well. Tell us how you got into the stunt industry.
Well, like a lot of little boys, I watched a lot of Jackie Chan movies, and he was kind of like a hero to me. So I went to school for digital film and moved out to Hawaii for 4 years, where I became pretty active in freediving community, which very similar to Alea's story. I had no idea that there was actually a good amount of crossover between the two, which was really cool to explore. And I did a lot of underwater cinematography as well, so I was kind of like handy with the camera and enjoyed like the breath hold element. I did some scuba as well, and doing some water safety for some other productions as well was really great. And I think this was a really unique opportunity to perform a little more on the other side of camera compared to safety. And it all kind of just falls into place sometimes, like life does. So
right.
Cool to find it mixed, like Alea said.
Exactly. So Alea, I know you have a background in acting now as well. How did your experience transition? Like when you got into the industry, did you want to do acting primarily, or what was the goal?
I think when I was first making my decision, like when I was back in school, I didn't really know whether I wanted to like write, direct, act. I had interest in like all 3 things because just the entire ecosystem of like film production is what interests me. And so I didn't really have like a clean line on that. I reached out to the film department and was like, should I like change majors? Let me like go audit a class. And nobody got back to me, which was kind of so I was like, okay. And I had taken an acting elective, so I kind of knew that I knew when their auditions were for like the senior thesis films for the people that were in the film major. And I was like, well, ha 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 ha, like you guys can't tell me I can't be there if I'm your actor. So I went and auditioned, and I ended up working like 3 out of the 5 films, and I actually learned I was like halfway decent at that thing. And so that was kind of where my interest started to like become more acute and start to kind of isolate on that like more embodiment part. So yeah, when I moved to Atlanta, I was moving with the intent of focusing on acting.
Okay, so you were shifting into acting then. Gotcha. Yep. Yeah, so when you found The Bondsman, did you audition through your agent? How did that happen?
No. Okay. I actually love this story because I didn't get this through my agent, but I did audition for it. So when I moved to Atlanta, I started working at a cafe, and I had met this really amazing woman named Robin Bronner.
Okay.
And we bonded over scuba because I think I probably had like a scuba pro hat on or something. And she's like, "Oh, I'm a diver too." And, "Oh, you work film, I work film." And then later on, because of water safety, we ended up working the same project a couple times together. So it's kind of like we would just see each other in passing. And it's like, "Oh, hey, it's you." And then Robin, obviously is first dating the Bondsman, and she saw this opportunity and was like, "Guys, this is an Aaliyah-shaped hole. I know exactly who you need." She reached out to me and was like, "Hey, are you SAG? Do you do stunts?" And I was like, "Yes and yes. What's up?" And so she kind of like got me in touch with Hank. I
Yeah.
talked to Hank, and then he sent me to the producers. Producers sent me to Erica Arvold, who was doing the Atlanta casting for the show.
Right.
And Arvold had me tape, and I passed her litmus test as well. And then it was just go from there.
Yeah, it's a perfect fit.
Yeah. Yep.
And then Corbin Tom talked a little bit about how you got this role, but fill us in on what happened to the amazing Tom Watson.
Yeah, so if you've watched the other episodes or know anything about Tom, he was like the main double for Kevin Bacon on the show, and he's a great match, and he's a really good close friend of mine. And I think he also mentioned that, me and you and him had done the whole like pool thing at LA Fitness where
Yeah.
we were kind of just like trying to have some fun and film some stuff in the water. And he knows me pretty well, and he knows that I have a background in underwater cinematography and also freediving. And he hit me up one day and he's like, "Hey, there's like a water thing coming up. I'm going to try and get you to like maybe film the previs." And that didn't work out, but that's okay. And then a few days before they were actually scheduled to shoot, he was like, "Hey, I have a really bad stomach bug." And he was really not feeling super good. So he hit me up and I kind of reached out to Hutch and Hank and spoke with them a little bit. And it kind of just went from there it was very convenient that he happened to get sick on like the one water scene, which was kind of an
Yeah,
area
yeah.
I have a
Oh,
lot of
how convenient,
specialize
Tom.
in.
No.
Yeah.
I actually don't think Tom can swim either. He's just lying to everybody.
Ozzy that can't swim. It's possible. It's
Yeah, because the only time I've ever worked with him in the water was 2 shallow pools. So
yeah,
I'm just
exactly.
saying.
And then I just stepped in and filled in for a few days, and I think it was just a really nice coincidence that it was a kind of a water scene. So
Yeah, so Aaliyah, you rehearsed this scene with Tom, correct?
Like for almost a good week. We spent several days like workshopping it and putting
Okay.
legs on it. And yeah,
And then Corbin, you just kind of jumped in last minute. It was like, yeah, okay, I got this.
yeah, essentially, I think I did get a little sneak peek of like some of the footage, and Tom had kind of like spoke with me through it, like, "Hey, this is the gag, like this is what we're doing. You're going to be doing with this girl Aaliyah, like she's really good." And then, kind of went through from there.
Yeah. So I know both of you obviously have a background in scuba and are very comfortable in the water. But let's talk about this stunt. I know it was kind of a pain where you have to grab her, stab her in the eye in the water. You can't move well underwater, and people forget that. And they have all this choreo and stuff put in. And how was that? Let's start with Aaliyah. What were the difficulties going into this stunt? Was there anything you were worried about?
I knew my water safety really well. Alexis Lord, she's really fantastic, and we also had David, and then Spencer was also available for water safety for some of that too. And it was like I felt safe with them, and I felt like Hank was doing a really good job like designing everything. So for me, it wasn't necessarily like worry about like physical safety concerns or anything like that. Um, Gosh, I don't know because I was so
Yeah.
focused.
Yeah.
It
You
like
were,
it's like you're in such a focused zone for this stuff that's like really highly physical that like when a worry comes in, because when it comes to water work, you get really, really acquainted with that kind of like panic response in your body.
right.
And so it comes in, you register it, and you do something about it right away. And sometimes that's just happening so fast, you're not really spending a lot of time like pausing and reflecting on like, why is it that I feel this way? And
Yeah,
you
I
look
feel
back
like
later sometimes. But I think my biggest thing was this was because it was my first time combining aquatics and stunts and acting all together. I really wanted to make sure that like I did right by everybody.
right.
Um, was a good representation of like our entire team in general.
Yeah, yeah. So that was your main worry. I feel like your panic response in the water is probably a lot different than mine. But Corbin, I know being thrown in the fire, being thrown in the water, sorry, literally last minute. What were some of the difficulties? Were you worried about anything? Was there any moments that happened in the choreography that were kind of a pain that we might not get from watching the show?
Um, the water in general is always pretty complex, just in my experience. The communication can be difficult, and there's a lot of things that need to be discussed before you actually do anything, just because you're so limited when you're actually in the water doing anything.
Yeah, you can't talk underwater.
And also, there's just a longer reset.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times, like with some action scenes, it's like, hey, we can just step back to our ones and kind of like catch our breath and then go again. But as far as the water goes, especially if you're on breath hold, which is it depends on the gag and what you're doing. You want like a proper breathe up. There's a lot more protocol to it to do it like properly and safely. And I don't think we ran into anything that was super difficult. Actually, I think oddly enough, the thing that was the most challenging is if you go back and watch it, there's a scene, there's a really short insert where you see the knife being pulled out under the water.
Yeah.
And the knife was sort of like a not quite a switchblade, but you had to like really like with your wrist flick it to get it to come out. And because of the water and the way it works, there's a lot of extra resistance.
Yeah.
I think we spent probably like 30 minutes probably of the camera on my hand of this insert, and it was just a constant like
Just
trying to get it to flick out. And it was a process. I think
just doing this.
that was one of the most challenging things.
Yeah, no, I mean
it was all challenging in its own way. So.
Like I said, it is difficult to move under the water, I know. But what, like, when it comes to that stunt specifically, do you guys know exactly, was there a take where you had to hold your breath like for an extended period of time? Like, how long did you have to hold your breath for?
I think ideally, I'm not sure if either of us went much longer than like 40 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah,
What do you
it's
think, Leah?
once you get past like functional mode, there's no reason to keep recording because you're not getting good usable stuff anyway. So
Right.
even if you could, do a longer breath hold, if it's not workable, it kind of is irrelevant. Plus with like, 40, 45 seconds, you get a lot more material than you think.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel like a lot because when you're down there doing it, you're like, oh, that was over really quick. But then you watch it and it's like 45 seconds on camera is like a really long time. There's some
Yeah.
scenes where the entire scene is 45 seconds. So you have kind of like that little time dilation aspect with being in the water that I honestly kind of enjoy.
Yeah.
But we also had like really, really phenomenal, water safety where it was like the second I asked for it, I had air, I had
Right.
assistance, I had help. It kind of got to a point where it was like the reset was taking longer than I would prefer. So I kind of was just like, I don't want to do the full reset where, we take the regulator, we get the mask back on, I just ditched the mask entirely and was like, just give me the air. I can see Hank. Like, it's going to save us time. It's going to save me the micro jarring that happens when you like, change mediums.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I found it helpful that I felt like I could go longer and do more with the time that I had if my reset was more efficient. And I had a
Right.
lot of support in making that as efficient as I could make it. So yeah, that's kind of my experience with that.
Also, weird question. Was that a chlorine pool?
I think so. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay. Because that sounds a lot more painful. that definitely,
Honestly,
that adds a whole nother factor. I've been in saltwater pools where I have no issues holding my eyes open underwater.
it
Chlorine,
might have been salt water. It might have been chlorine. I don't remember exactly. I didn't really have like eye problems, but I also
Yeah.
wear contacts.
Oh, okay.
So, and they don't like come out in the water. So to be honest, I think I was kind of like protected from like the abrasiveness just because I had like that little extra barrier.
Yeah. Yeah. And then as far as like any funny behind the scenes moments that happened on set that we might not get from watching the show, can you guys remember a particular moment at any point in time, whether it be with cast, crew, anything that happened that we might not get from watching the Bondsman?
Okay, Corbin, you go first.
Oh man, I was gonna say you
I
go.
gotta think about mine.
Same here. Curveball. I can't think of anything specifically that stands out immediately to
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Overall, it was pretty fun, but I do think that we were both pretty focused. Like we were pretty hyper focused and everything.
Was that shot all in one day, the pool scene?
I believe it was 3 days.
3 days. Okay. Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Aaliyah.
Days where I spent the whole day in the water, pretty much. We had like our half-hour lunch, and I didn't even get out of the costume because it took so long to get into the costume. Because you
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
put, so the way that we did the costume was there was a tube on the inside. So with the water, and buoyancy, we had to basically weight myself, and you had
Okay.
to hide it because the costume was this like skin tight cheerleader costume.
Right.
So we basically took these like tubes of lead weight with like buckles and built a inner tube on the inside, so we would slide it in, all the way, and then buckle it, and there would basically be like this hidden belt within the costume. But
Yeah.
it was so snug and precisely like oriented that to get in and out of it was like a 20-30 minute ordeal.
Yeah.
So it was just on the whole, like once we got it on, it was like on for the day because it
It's
was going to be
staying
way
on.
too.
Yeah.
Right. Like I would have spent my whole lunch getting out of it and then getting back into it. So I was in the costume the whole day, and I remember one of the days was just a full water day for me because they did some of Kevin's stuff like outside, and then we were doing pool stuff that I could get done at the same time. So it was like me in the pool in the morning, and then in the evening it was like me and Kevin in the pool, and
It was
it was
just,
just the whole day was pretty much in the water. So I remember that day. That day I remember the most because I spent so much time in the water, and when you're in the water, you're just so present. So your
yeah.
memories look pretty good.
Yeah. No, that does sound like a lot, actually. So not only were you in the water all day long and you're holding your breath, but you're also being, uh, sorry, I think that froze. Okay, redo that. So not only are you in the water and you're being basically suffocated by your costume and you're holding your breath all day long, like that's a double whammy. Um,
Pretty good costume. I wouldn't say that it was like troublesome to wear. It was
yeah.
just a multi-person event to get it like on and off.
Oh wow. Yeah. No, I can't imagine. I can't imagine how that goes.
Yeah.
Um,
But the
but
challenges are fun when it's work you enjoy. Because
yeah,
now we just laughed about it. It's like, oh yeah, this thing that we like kind of did.
well, like you said, like it's kind of rare that you get to do something you love with something else you love combined. Like
Exactly.
you get to act and you also get to do stunts. You get to be in the water. It's like, and you really can't ask for a better day. I mean, you could be doing construction somewhere in the blazing hot sun right now.
Yep. Yeah, all
But
of the challenges were definitely like fun challenges that were more like obstacle course style tasks where it was like you were proud of yourself for having kind of, done it successfully.
right, right. But lastly, before I let you guys go, I want to give you each a chance to talk about some up and coming projects you have, anything that's about to release. We'll start with Aaliyah. Where can we find you on social media, and what are you working on coming up?
My handle right now is Aaliyah.herself. And I don't have anything to discuss.
Yeah, no,
Nothing,
no,
nothing to talk about on the coming front.
yeah, nothing you're working on outside of the industry, doing anything collaborative.
Just focusing on acting, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, taking, taking,
I'm really looking forward to doing, more projects like this where because honestly, like the community flavor, like on this set was so thorough that I honestly hadn't felt such a camaraderie based sense of community within a like working group of people since I worked at the scuba shop I worked at in college.
right.
So I really personally enjoyed like working with everybody on the team, not just our stunt team, but across the board.
Oh yeah. I mean, I might be a little biased here, but you worked with one of the better teams in this area. I would say, in my personal experience.
Yeah, I'm
um,
definitely spoiled in that sense that it got to be that way.
yeah, and Corbin, same question for you. Where can we find you on social media, and what are some up and coming projects that you have?
Oh man.
I know one of them, so don't leave that one out.
Now I want to know what you know.
I
Um, my
guess you.
handle is just stunts.marshall. which is
Okay.
my last name, of course. I don't have any projects right now currently, which makes me want to know what you were talking about.
What did you work on last year after the Bondsman?
Oh, I did work on Stranger Things season 5 last year for a
There
while.
we go. For a while, yeah.
From what I understand, that's the last season, so I don't expect to be working on it again.
Yeah, yeah. It is the season finale.
I think I have a couple of personal projects
Yeah.
happening right now that are outside of film. I'm training for a marathon in December,
Okay.
which I've always wanted to run, and I love running, so I'm very excited for that. And then I've also signed up for a few online classes just to go back to school because I kind of miss learning, like
What you going to school
like,
for?
learning. I am not sure yet. I'm taking calculus and
Just winging it.
yeah, some STEM
I'm just
classes.
gonna go in and start clicking things.
And then just training, just the usual training on my own time. So
Yeah, no, that's good to hear, man. And I'll definitely look forward to that personal project. But marathon, I don't know about that. You can keep that. You can have that one. I'm not down for running over 2 miles. You give me 2 miles and I can do it. Anything longer than that, and I'm out.
yeah, I'm sure once I finish it, my knees will be like, yeah, you're never doing that again, and I'll probably agree with them. So
I mean, you never know. Some people get addicted. Next thing you know, you'll be running 100 miles.
maybe
Do the
I hope not.
extreme. Alea's like,
Yeah.
Over here, I'm like, now I know why I've been seeing nothing but his Apple Watch on his Instagram stories.
Yep. No, that's literally
That's most of it for sure.
that's literally what he does.
Like, this explains it.
He runs for literally 6 hours every day. But no, I just want to thank you guys for coming in, and thanks for joining us. This has been the Good Slate Late Show. I am Graham Jones. This is Alea Hansinger and Corbin Marshall. Thank you guys.
Bye. Thank you, Graham.
Yeah, bye. Thanks for having us. That was good fun.
This has been the Good Slate Late Show. Stay tuned for more interviews.